Now we are ready for our main speaker, James Jareb. He's going to talk about stone temples and labyrinths, an introduction to sacred geometry and stargates. PhD, founder of the cosmic architect, alchemist, and visionary artist of Stardreaming. Stardreaming is dedicated to understanding and communicating the story of our world and that of the stars, rooted in indigenous teachings, star lore, art, and sacred architecture across the cultures. Welcome, James.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's very interesting energy here. I didn't know this really even existed, so I thank my friend Sandra for bringing me here. I had a very extraordinary, radical in some ways story of how this all began. Which I really should probably share. So about 20 some years ago, I was in Sedona, and I was actually moving to Marrakesh in a month. And I was an academic, wasn't on the path or anything like that. And a friend and I went to Sedona and started hiking, and we split up, and I ended up going into a real medicine room, not a new age one, with clocks and money and stuff. And I had a certain amount of compassion because I was an archaeologist, anthropologist, so I was still respectful of many different cultures. And I sat in the center, and I was just like ready to get up, and then all of a sudden all the stones around me burst into flames, and this huge being with big starry eyes and hair maybe like 9-10 feet long, was just, floating and said, "You're not who you think you are. You will never be that again. And you will build stone temples, paint on walls, on canvas," and just continued. And I was sitting there in like a lotus position, and he had sort of like these really piercing blue, star eyes kind of thing. And just if you're going to ask, no, I wasn't on plant medicine, because everyone asked me. And then this light came and hit me right in my groin, my root chakra. And I thought it was over. Really thought I was going to die. And because I was like, so, just paralyzed physically. And then I remember looking into his eyes, and the smoke started coming out of my mouth, which of course, I don't know if any of you know, it's one of the highest forms of Kundalini, but of course at the time I don't even know what Kundalini is. And so then for sure I thought I was gone. And then I laid back, really passed out. And then later I woke up, I didn't really know what had happened. What I felt, and I just have to be honest, is that it was sacrilegious. This white guy in an American native sacred site, you got, punished, or whatever words you want to come up with. Anyway, I finally found David, my friend, and I was telling him a little bit of the story. You could tell he was really upset. And so he hugged me, and he fell to the ground and said he felt like he was electrocuted. So we both went back to the hotel, and he sort of fell asleep. I went into some shamanic kind of dream, flying on eagles and things like that. And then I came back home, and we both, of course, made a pact that we would never, ever go back to Sedona, of course. And you have to understand, 20-some years ago, UFO abductions, who knows what's going on? And that's pretty much what I thought. I just didn't get probed. But once I got home, I started writing the story that I'm telling you, and something grabbed my hand, it was very powerful, and said, "I'm a light warrior, an angel in your dimension. And everything grandfather told you is true. You will never be the same. You must forget," this is a good one, "everything you know. And you will start, building temples, blah, blah. The thing about the divine for me is it's always consistent. If there's anything that's out of place or awry, those are red flags. And you should always consider that, whether it's your guides or people, or it doesn't really matter. A lot of this, of course, I don't know at this stage, so I was just, somewhat, I don't know what the word would be, amazed, because there was really strong energy. And if you know about, which you probably think where I'm going, is automatic writing. It was, but it did definitely advance through the years. Because now that was my very first journal, and I have 238. So I never stopped writing after this first night. Anyway, it was the same sort of, context, what he was saying, which of course for me was like, it was just so beyond. I mean, there's no way that I would be building stone temples or painting. I've never painted in this lifetime. So I didn't know exactly where to go with that. And I had a big show in LA, had written a book for this, catalog for this particular show. Anyway, to jumpstart, so I started channeling every night, writing in my journal. The thing that amazed me the most was like every time they were working on different organs or whatever it was, if I made a mistake, is the only reason I thought this was really important, is they would say, no, it's your left side of your heart, or it's the right side of your liver, or whatever. Because I didn't think any of this was really important, of course, and of course I didn't really believe that they were really doing anything, but now, of course, I can tell you, of course they were. It's the only way I probably could have ever done everything I've done and be here in this moment to tell you this story. So I started traveling around the world because I didn't believe in past lives. And we went to many sacred sites all over the world. Now I know, of course, the reason I did that is because I will anchor all that energy in stone. But I don't know that yet. So that was kind of the beginning. And then I moved to this land where I'm living. It's 22 acres, funky little guest house, nothing there. And I first started with a couple, fire pits and a little circle. Didn't know anything, you have to understand, or really be on the path or anything like that. So everything was new. So I started reading, of course, alchemy, magic, sacred architecture, all kinds of things that really didn't help in a sense, because what I'm going to do wasn't in any of those books. But I thought, there might be some handbook about whatever I'm supposed to do. I mean, not building temples like the Parthenon. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, in the middle of the desert. Anyway, so of course, every night I was channeling, and I had lots of directives in the beginning. But I just followed the moon the first round, which is my first temple, of the Temple of Stars. And it would be 22 huge piles of stone that would represent 22 star systems in our solar system. And then it was sort of like a medicine, the four directions became the four archangels. That's how it started. Again, you have to understand that so many years ago, I really thought this was it. And I would build finally a studio so I could paint, since I was painting on a nail, right, in this funky guest house. And from there, it just sort of, every year, I have people that have come 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and said, like, you said you were done. I think I said I was done every year, okay? It just kept building. And yes, no, there wasn't, because people always ask all these things, how did you do that? I'm not really sure. I was selling CDs when I started. I will now have, close to 800 tons of stone. We have 26 fire pits on this site now. And through the years, I just kept building. I didn't really know why. It's a very alchemical journey in some ways. If you know about alchemy, I actually took all of the money, the gold, and put it into stone. Literally. I can't even tell you exactly how I was doing it. Sandra's a friend of mine. She knows how crazy I was in those early days. It's like you're taking 20,000, and building this temple and taking 30,000, everyone thought I was starving. I had people bringing me food and, giving me food in my mailbox, because I thought for sure. The diligence I think I can honor in myself is I worked every day, except one day, my birthday. Whether it was raining, snowing, heat, didn't really matter. The thing about a sacred site that I learned early on was you have to be very diligent, and you have to be very disciplined. If Spirit tells you that on Friday Venus is rising, then you better, get your ass up there and make sure that the stones are in alignment for Venus. I use that for an example because there was a blizzard when I was doing this one. And I told Anthazar and my other guys, it's like, there's no way. But I did go up there and work that whole week. And on Friday, Venus did rise, and it was the Temple of the Moon. And it was amazing to watch that whole, energy when we were talking about rain, and very much aware of that. It was one of the, I think, the exciting times of my life. I knew what to do every day, and I was always directed. And it was amazing to be with the earth and the sky like that every day. I called myself a cosmic postman, because that's what I did.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you free stacking, or are you using mortar?
Pardon?
Are you free stacking rocks, or are you using cement to hold them together?
I'm not using any mortar.
Okay.
It's all stone. In fact, the magic of this story, okay, is that I moved probably 200 or 300 tons of stone with a crowbar and a pipe. The hardest part of this job, believe it or not, if some of you have attempted labyrinths and so on, is I cleared all the land. But I cleared it with a pickaxe and a rake. Just like how we've been doing it for thousands of years. Why? I used to think that spirit, it's kind of like the gods versus you, like Rabbi James would really do all this so we could explain something. I really thought it was a punishment, of course, at certain times, trust me. But it was the magic, because it was about showing us human potential is unlimited, even in the physical. Not a rhetorical discourse talking about esoteric, it's fine, not saying there's anything wrong with it. This particular project was going to prove that it is in the physical. In ancient times, they probably could have either levitated or moved things. There's many different ways to do this, and the ancients definitely knew how to do it. And I struggled with this for years, trust me. It's like, I wasn't in my 20s or 30s when I'm doing this, and I did it for over 20 years. For sure, I would be dead at the end, or crippled, or fractured, or something. But chemically, it just made you indispensable, actually. And that's kind of, yes. Are you asking me a question?
Yeah, did you use a chisel to shape any of these stones, or?
I used a chisel to actually, it's funny you would ask that, because I also chipped the stone another 50 tons with a chisel and a sledgehammer. Why? Because alchemically the stone opens its memories in fire. So it's like no other labyrinth actually anywhere in the world. I've spoke at many different labyrinth conferences and so on. Again, a lot of this I didn't know, you have to understand. It's like, why are the gods doing this? You could go into this whole melodramatic thing, which I did. It's like, why are you doing this? And of course, I did it alone, which I'm not saying I wanted to. I wanted people to help me, but there was this one day I had just some friends, and one was an architect, and they were my buddies, so to speak, and we worked one day, but they're measuring everything, and they were telling me, this is going to be over here and over there. It's not how we did it. It's all magic and intuition. So, they all have real jobs, so that was the last time I saw them. Yes?
What did the stones teach you?
A lot. Humility, love, frustration, depression, anxiety, trust. The archangels came up with a great exercise in the beginning called Stara, which helped me tremendously, which is what, I should share probably, while they're telling me I should share, which was surrender, trust, allow, receive, acceptance. And you do all 5, all at the same time, everyone starts differently, everyone has an issue, trust me of those 5. Trust, whichever one it is. The others are, people feel comfortable, oh no, I do allow, or I do accept. Well, it's alchemical, it's not linear. And I had to surrender a lot in the beginning to do this. It was like, this can't happen. It's impossible to do this, to move 30 tons of stone with a crowbar that day. But I did this one really weird thing for the Temple of the Moon, and that's what will give you some idea of how it worked. So I had all these columns of stone from Mexico. I think they were let's say 800 pounds. And I was doing this design for the entryway, it goes up the hill. So I put the stones all up, right? And I thought, no, they should be up, down, up, down, up, down. And then I thought, no, it should be down and then up, and then, anyway. So I did this all day till like 5 o'clock. And once I realized that I had moved all these stones like 3 or 4 times, and there, how many would you say, 40, right? 20 on each side. It was impossible physically. So I remember sitting there in spirit saying, we'll, cure you or heal you every day, which of course I was like, okay, that would be great, but I mean, how about when another 20 years, when I'm like 60 or 70, I won't be able to walk. And they said, no, you'll be healed. So it was a real big trust that day, but for me, it was more psychologically, it was like, how could you possibly do that? And why did you, because that design was important, okay? Because this goes up to the Temple of the Moon, of course, all of you can see it if you come someday. So I think that was kind of my turning point, And then I would say, we have to jump quite a ways. I probably had, maybe 10 temples done. And then some of you, I'm sure know, here in Taos, the 13 indigenous grandmothers will come to me in 2005. Now we're having an anniversary, if you don't know, like 20 years. And that changed me a lot. Because everything I had been doing that seemed so crazy and outrageous really confirmed what I was doing, right? Because I came from all over the world, all these indigenous cultures, and later, I think we all realized I was dreaming them and they were dreaming me. And that had always been. And that had been the prophecy for, many of them, which I don't even know the prophecy, you have to understand. So I think for me, that was big. That's when I realized, okay, I guess you have to keep going. Now, I don't know where we're going, you have to understand, and I don't know how many we're gonna do or anything like that. But one thing I think I should say also, which was a great story, inspiration. One day, the guides were telling me, I went to this quarry to buy stone, which I did a lot. And they said, you buy everything you love, be appropriate for this group. And of course, I was like, of course, now I don't know what I'm gonna build, you have to understand. My process is you just get the title. The same thing for all the paintings I did. I would love to tell you that I had all this information, but I didn't. So anyway, I went to this place and I thought I could get around it and just ask the stone, like, who wants to come, right? Because I really, first of all, I don't have the money. I don't think, I don't even know what we're going to buy. And I really don't know what we're gonna build yet, okay? So anyway, I went there and I tried it. And of course, all the stone raised its hand and said, we all want to go to Stargate. So I didn't really know what to do. So the truth is, I really did have to go deeper. And so when I saw the obsidian, I bought it all. So let's say 30 tons. Saw the rose quartz, bought all that. Saw the red granite, bought all that. Saw the red jasper, bought all that, and so on and so on. And that's how I did it, at least the first round. And for me, I knew that was a big leap because I don't really know how many temples we're doing. You would just get the name and then check it off. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's just the way it was. There wasn't anything in the future to say that you're going to have 22 temples in the end, and 800 tons, and like I said, 26 fire pits. It wasn't like that. So that was probably the biggest leap for me. And for years, I just had, actually where the grandmother temple is, it was like a quarry. I just had all this stone sitting there, these huge piles. In fact, the people I was buying the stone from, I remember the grandkids came out and they just, gave me another pile of stone, another truck full. And they went back and were telling their grandparents, like, this guy's nuts. He's just got these piles, these freaking piles of stone laying all over the place. He doesn't have a tractor. He doesn't have a backhoe. I don't know what he's doing. So when they, can you tell us for that? Because when they told me that, I was just very, as usual, I guess. It was like, yeah, no, I don't. Not even thinking that, of course, most people would have a rototiller, right? Definitely have a backhoe, or a tractor at least. And of course, we didn't do that. So it's not to impress you, it's just the magic of it was that kept me going, I think. Even though physically, well, like Sandra knows, I was 3 sizes bigger now than I was when I started. Everything was transforming, I mean, it was, there's no question. And the psychological part about it, I don't know, I felt that the stone was, as you're asking me, was teaching me so much. I thought, if you want to be anything, this will really sound crazy, I know, is, be a stone. It's like millions and millions of years old. You really want to learn about the divine and the oneness and enlightenment and everything we talked about, just sit with stone. So we did, a lot. In fact, one time the stone fell over, and again, I didn't have the funds in order to get it back up. It turned out, of course, to be the Dream Temple. Interesting, huh? It's like, I don't know, 8 tons or something, and this is one of the biggest ordeals I think I ever did, because I wasn't sure I could do it. But every hour I went out there with my, crowbar and moved it like an inch, because it fell over, right? And I don't have the money to bring the bulldozer back and put it back up again. But the whole thing was really symbolic and metaphoric too, because it was like chained, all this stuff. And I'm just sort of looking at this huge stone that was in chains right as it comes in the bulldozer and they drop it. And we dug the hole and all that, and then it just fell over. So I went there like every hour and just moved it just, like barely an inch. And then finally got it, in alignment. And of course, it turned out to have all 3 temples in alignment with the Dream Temple. When you think about it, of course, it's perfect because it is a Dream Temple. And so now when people they lay down on these huge slabs, right, stone, to dream, all those temples, all that energy is coming in there. So, whether it was straight up or whether it's just there, it just had to be there though, because it was over here. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think that helped me a lot.
Where did you buy this stone?
Well, that's really a beautiful story, because the man I first bought it from, collected stone for 45 years. It's like this perfect story, right? And built a house of stone. So I bought everything from him in the beginning. So Stardreaming has stone from like pretty much all over the world. Every person that comes, and people do come from all over the world now. I have stone from where you're from, whether it's Australia, New Zealand, doesn't really matter. And that was a big part. And then the other magic, which I have to say, is that Bob moved, right? And I don't know if you guys know about stone and, gravel and all that. I actually didn't. And he was moving and he said, James, everything will be pulverized, the whole place, into gravel, unless you want more. And again, I'm not like this millionaire where I have another 40,000, to buy the rest of the stone. But what happened was he moved to Alaska. And one day he called me. That was really amazing. I had to take my mailbox down because these semis appeared with these huge baskets. If this is how the stone comes, right? So I had like I said, at least 10 tons of, rose quartz, et cetera, on these semis. And then, like I said, because I don't know I'm building the Temple of Infinity in the grandmothers, it became like a rock quarry. We put it all over there. And then we did it when, the time comes through, and that's like you're gonna do, rainbow serpent or whichever one you're gonna do. So there's a lot of, as people would say, trust.
So do you have ceremonies in the temples?
Oh God, yes.
At certain times, or?
Well, we used to have, new moon, full moon. I mean, we're talking 20 years here now. So I've had lots of different, like I said, the grandmothers were there. That was the biggest one for me to shift into, And they told me, of course, you have to understand that it's like, that all this really sounds wonderful sometimes, but you have to embody it. You have to embrace it. The grandmother said, this is the sacred site for the rainbow race. Archangel Raphael said, it's the greatest wonder of New Earth. I mean, this is, I don't know what that means, at the time. I had no idea. I mean, we had probably only, 10 temples maybe then. I mean, even though it might have still been exciting, but I didn't know it was gonna go. And see, the other thing is, if you look on the website or, on some of the aerials, Stardreaming is this huge heart, which the mother did. I didn't do that. And it's only the royal, and it's only on 22 acres. I mean, it's all divinely orchestrated, it's always been. I just didn't know it was. Yes,
Are you still building or have you
No.
completed the work?
that's the good news. That's really why I'm here, I think, in some ways. No, it's complete, 22 is it. The last one I did is actually a building out of Adobe, we made the bricks and all that. It's actually from my driveway. And the interesting thing, I think, with that is with all the temples in the world, which are probably really an old paradigm and energy, Stardreaming has that energy of the earth, of the new, the divine feminine, et cetera, in the walls. We did it on purpose, because the people that come there and meditate, pray, et cetera, there, all feel that energy. And I wasn't aware of it when I was doing it, but when I was done, the archangels, all the different realms were, this is the beginning. You'll have that energy of the new for everyone that enters. And we have 22 crystal skulls in there, and we have lots of different things going on in that building. But that's number 22.
James, can you explain the size of the biggest stone you moved? Because people may think you just moved gravel.
Oh, no. No,
The gravel was the pathway.
3 to 10 tons probably, depending on.
Yeah, the tall one.
Oh, 12 feet, 15 feet.
Oh, I see.
I mean, some people,
Two Jameses and go that way and then double it.
no, they're big stones. If you people have been, Glastonbury, been to Avebury, I just came back from Uluru. They're large. Callanish, Scotland. Well, I probably have 5 or 6 Callanishes, to be honest. Again, when you're doing, first of all, I wasn't comparing at all, and I didn't ever know where we're going. Now, I guess when I look out the window, I can tell you that it's pretty impressive. The other thing is like I said, going to all these places, I didn't know I was really doing that. Now, of course I do, because people say I feel like I am in Glastonbury. I feel like I am in Peru, So they're, and of course our landscape here in the Southwest is wonderful and incredible anyway. But it's more than that. Really did take that energy and anchor that in stone. And of course, the sacred architecture part of this was all spirals. And, they're all labyrinths. Some are 11, some aren't. So New Atlantis, for example, is all chipped stone, 50 different kinds of stone. So the energy of the memories, you see, of that. Again, what are the memories? Well, there's 18 tons of river stone in that temple? Every one of those little river stones are a thought form for the New World. That's how it was, directed to me. So it's very powerful, that part of it, for people. It's extremely high healing, no matter, why you've come. I've seen hundreds, thousands at this point. So, from everywhere, all over the world. We're open every day. Is this gonna be, I think this is my ending.
Wait, you
Oh,
gotta
sorry.
talk about Stargates,
Oh,
how the temples actually.
well, some of the, that was interesting too, because I think I know a lot of people thought I was just working for someone or a group, or some people call it a team and all that. But from the beginning, I knew this was gonna be a star galactic thing, which was really a leap for me. So it was Sirian, Arcturus, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, I do have all these star systems you have to understand on the first one. But I didn't kind of know where that was gonna go, and I think it was Violet Flame is what I was thinking on the way driving up here. What were those first ones? Because I started making stars, kind of thing, with the energy a circle around it, not for us, but for them. And I remember when I was doing it, it was wow, I wonder when that is. Obviously not my lifetime. I was pretty naive about that. But at the time, I really knew that I was doing it not for humanity, someone else, because they're coming, right? I didn't know when they're coming. And all these indigenous cultures, had always revered the stars. And of course, whether it was the grandmothers and, other Lakota, et cetera, all these years. There were certain systems, that were extremely important, like Pleiades or 4 star nations. I mean, it depends. And when I did the Temple of Stars, you know, it's a circle, it was different. And I knew it was different in relation to having specific portals, right? And entryways or gateways or doorways, there's a lot of different words, for other systems, not ours. And so that was big. I did a whole series actually of Stargate paintings too, which was quite funny because the only thing I knew was that I saw the movie. And that's about all I knew in the beginning. But then, you know, with a lot of sacred geometry, it just creates those doorways and entryways if you're ready to go through them. It's really that simple. It's not, you know, rocket science, but again, the alignment in the sacred site is probably the most important. You know, because everything at Stardreaming, for example, is aligned to the sun, the moon, and stars, not just one of those mediums. And I think that makes a difference too, because many times ancients didn't really know. You have to understand where all this is coming from. So the biggest thing I think, though, that I felt in part of the process, really, I was telling this group the other day, was that the healing, you know, in all of these indigenous cultures and everything is coming. I mean, the mother, yes, there's no question. The Pachamama, all of that is true, but it was the stars. It was always the stars. You know, whether you know what the system is, you know, when I first started studying alchemy, I was like so upset. At first I was like, you know, they keep on saying the stars, you know, starry filaments, lights of, I don't know, you know, the sky and et cetera. It was like, no one really knew that. Like, who's who? So then I was working on this alchemy of Saint Germain, these paintings, and I remember him saying to me, it's so important, James, in your future, that people are sophisticated enough to know who is who. You know, because it will come to that. If some of you have, grandchildren out there and so on, you know that those kids know. I know they know. You know, I don't even have any, but I did a kid's book and I've had 5-year-olds and this is the Year of the Dragon and I, you know, go on with all kinds of stories. But they're already there. They know the systems they're from. I have 22 portals on the ceiling. And I remember this one little kid who was like 9 or something and he kept on pointing to this, which is like way over on my ceiling, right? It's like out of this galaxy, it's Brujos. He said, that's where I'm from, you know, and I was like, I'm sure he is. I had never even heard of that system, but I have it on my ceiling, because, you know, I was directed to do that. So, you know, it's just it's sort of like a Star Wars movie, you know, it's like to go into the Galactic Senate, we have to look at this more, not so much childish, you know, that we are moving into a system with other systems that are very sophisticated. I'm sure a lot of you are channeling or whatever words you want to use with other systems already, Syrian, Arturian, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing is really that Stardreaming has become, should we say that, is a real platform, you know, for other sort of, what shall we call it, paranormal situations, like light language, like other, you know, even another level from these systems that I think has really expanded a lot of people. And there's thousands of people around the planet that are doing this. I just came back from this conference in Australia with this woman who speaks probably, 10 star languages. And I've had many people come to Stardreaming that are already, and the kids, you know, they're already there. Even if they haven't told you as grandma or grandma, or grandpa I should say, they are. Because I've witnessed them. And I've painted paintings like, what was it, the Pandra, of all these kids that are like cracking and opening, you know. I had a 5-year-old once and I said, when you're a teenager, you'll be teaching in the university. And he jumped up and down and said, I hope so. He was 5, and jumped in the car and left. And I waved. I had a 7-year-old the other day, Kenzo. His mother taught him how to see without seeing. And she blindfolded him when he was a kid. So when he was in the Star Temple, I said, so what'd you see? Because, you know, his mom put his hand over his eyes. He said, I see a red flame come out of the skulls. And I said, okay, I'm getting this. And it was so sweet, this story. Anyway, or he was. And he said, I put my hand on the pink one, meaning skull, right? I said, what happened? He said, disappeared? I said, okay. So when we were outside, because of his parents, his mother was saying, so what did you get from it? I said, just embodied it, of course, immediately. But the sweetest thing was, they left, they were doing Stardreaming outside and so on. And they left, we, hugged everyone, the deal. And then he came back in, and he came up to me and said, thank you, James, and left. It was so sweet, it was so love, talk about love. And he knew, and I know, of course, he is a dragon child. Of course he is, he's 7. His name is Kenzo, which means, you know what it means? Unity. I think that's where I'm going to end soon, because that was so heart-wrenching. That was just last week. That was very special. One of the perks of creating sacred geometry or architecture, probably really sound weird, is all the people that you heal, all the people that find their next. I had a woman the other day, she said, she's been on the path probably 20 years or so. She said, I just don't know what to do now. I hope that this really helps me. And of course, it did. She was in the temple, she was outside, walking the labyrinths and so on. The thing about magic, I think, in sacred architecture that most people forget is it works. It's very powerful. If you don't, play with it, change the symbols, try to, make up your own shit, it's powerful. More powerful than you probably could ever imagine. I know that my, journey so far, whatever you want to call it, destiny, it's been unbelievable. It's like something I just could never have fathomed that it would ever be to this level. I just I had this funky, like I told you, guest house. I just wanted a studio to paint and get my easel, because it's so frickin' big, in my door. But even if I take my door off, I couldn't, because it's 4 feet wide. And that was, 5 years? So I just painted on a nail all those years.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
That I gave you the
Yeah,
brochure,
they're
so
wrong.
all of you are invited. You can,
That's fantastic.
just go online and make a reservation, and it's $33 on the outside, right, which is all day, and it's $22 an hour inside the temple, where the crystal skulls and stuff are. And I'm finding a surge where people, they're guides. Sometimes it's 2 hours, sometimes it's 3 hours. So it's just accordingly. And then I have 2 sanctuaries outside, one for Merlin, one for Ganesha. Big, gardens. And you're welcome, of course, that's all part of that experience. Okay. Now I'm done.
Deep in the blue night, the Pleiades shine jewel-like. Deep in the blue night, Pleiades' daughters shine their light. And they will always be part of the mystery. They'll forever be. Deep in the blue night, the Pleiades shine jewel-like. Deep in the blue night, the 7 sisters shine their light. And they'll always be part of the mystery, and they'll forever be. Stars so beautiful, the stars were so beautiful, 400 light years away. Electra merope maya, Selanos derope, Alcione te jeta. place of origin. Those constellations shine within, and they will always be deep in the mystery. Will always be. Stars so beautiful, stars so beautiful, 400 light years away.